Joining us now, it's our weekly visit with the great Joe DiGenova, our legal analyst, who can really clear some things up because things are getting hot and heavy here in the district with regard to the Supreme Court. And, well, the big news over the weekend seems to be this the discussion on the Voter Rights Act. Joe, in a nutshell, can you tell us what is before the court and what's actually being decided? Because based on hearing some of the civil rights protesters talking about it, they're ready to take us back to, the Reconstruction days.
Yes, well, it's always important for people like that to scream and yell and to fudge the issue. But here's the issue. Under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, certain states in the South, from Virginia on down, that enact changes to their voting laws have to get those changes pre-cleared by the United States Department of Justice. Before the court now is a challenge to that legislation, saying that it is unconstitutional and it violates federalism and the Ninth and Tenth Amendment. That's what the Supreme Court is hearing, whether it should strike down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act as an unconstitutional interference with states' rights because there is no longer a need for pre-clearance of such laws.
We got a letter to this program from someone who has a real question about that. I mean, in Virginia right now, they've passed a photo ID requirement, right, and it's sitting on the governor's desk. He hasn't decided whether he's going to sign it. He says he needs to review it and look at it and study it, but he in the past has been in favor of ID. And then this writer named Hillary says, why does it have to go to Eric Holder, who will most assuredly not approve this? I thought states were their own sovereignty and need not approval from the federal government on many or most laws.
That is exactly the question that is before the Supreme Court and was argued the other day, whether or not the Justice Department will continue to review such changes in laws in those states, all from the South, which are covered by Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. It sounds as though from the oral argument in the Supreme Court the other day that the key vote, they know there were 4 conservative justices who were for striking down Section 5. Justice Kennedy was particularly strong in his criticism of the law and in his criticism of the Solicitor General, Donald Verrilli. And it's pretty clear they're going to strike it down. They are going to strike down the law, and if that happens, then Virginia and all the southern states will no longer have to send their voting law changes to Washington.
Well, I hope you're right about that, because I think I'm very much in favor of photo IDs for people who want to go cast their ballots. But I remember the health care debate, and we all thought that was going to go a different way as well before the Supreme Court.
Well, the difference here is John Roberts has actually publicly criticized the Voting Rights Act while he was on the D.C. Circuit. He called it an ugly business, this racial division under the Voting Rights Act. So I think it's pretty clear they've got his vote on this one. If he votes against this one, he may very well have trouble getting to the courthouse in the future.
Oh, my. Can I just shift on another issue that is before the court, and that is the Proposition 8 ruling in the state of California. Of course, just to remind everyone, that was a change to the state of California Constitution that merely stated that the state of California recognizes marriage being between one man and one woman.
Right.
Now, I heard the president at his press conference speak out about this and said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the White House is actually going to join in trying to fight and overturn Proposition 8.
That is correct. The president, in his ongoing evolution on the subject of gay marriage, has concluded that there is a constitutional right to gay marriage, which is why they are refusing to enforce the Defense of Marriage Act.
But help me out here, Joe, because I remember when the president gave this big transformation, his evolution, as he called it, and and he said, this is my personal belief, but I don't think the federal government should be involved. I think that states should have the rights to decide this. It seems to me that's exactly what we have here. California decided via ballot initiative. Why is the Obama administration now saying, well, we don't like the decision this state made?
Just remember, Obama doesn't want to own anything. He is, in my view, a theme in search of a pudding. He is the most bizarre human being on the face of the earth. He wants to just have it all. He doesn't want to be in a position to be criticized, and his position is illogical. It is inconsistent. He wants the states to have the right to make their own laws, and yet he wants California's law, which was enacted by the people through referendum, to be struck down. his position is illogical. I know for all our friends in the mainstream media who think he's the smartest man who ever walked on the face of the earth. In fact, he's an intellectual hack, but he's a great public speaker. This is absurd.
Well, you know, over the last few times you've been on the program, we have begun to pick up that you are continuing to build up the DiGenova arsenal there at your house.
Yes,
and you've been buying weapons at an alarming rate. And
no, actually, just reasonable pace. I call it the O'Malley pace.
Yeah.
It's
the DiGenova compound, I think, is how we should call it now.
That's right. Now, but what I wanted to ask you is, you know, we are in the process right now of writing some what people believe are pretty restrictive gun laws in the state of Maryland. Where are we on that?
The Senate has enacted the strictest gun controls in the country, sent it to the House of Delegates. They are considering it either this week or next, and it's going to be a rough time. It got pretty rough in the Senate, but, you know, the Democrats control both houses and the governorship. They're going to enact this stuff. The only question is whether or not the Republicans in the House, working with some conservative Democrats, can backtrack on some of the crazy stuff that O'Malley wants. But I think what's going to happen is this stuff is going to be enacted. It's going to be a very, very serious problem for people, legitimate, law-abiding citizens who want to own guns, and for people like Beretta, who are in Akakeek, who make weapons, which are going to be banned by this, and the company in Cambridge that makes the AR-15 equivalent. They're going to move. Let me tell you something. These folks are going to go to the South. They are going to go where there are places that want them and that allow them to sell their weapons to the citizens of those states.
And they don't have to go very far.
No, they won't. They can go to Virginia.
Right across the river.
Well, it does sort of raise the question. I mean, here, good Maryland workers are showing up at work every day at the Beretta plant, and they make a product that is illegal in the state in which they live. They can't buy the product that they make themselves. It's like Detroit outlawing automobiles.
That is correct. What you have here is, see, Martin O'Malley only likes some jobs. He has no problem with all the quote-unquote jobs, the good jobs, but these are bad jobs. These are really bad people. The other thing about this is it's fascinating. Many of these gun companies are deciding that they're not going to sell these weapons to law enforcement agencies in the states that make those weapons illegal. Any weapon that's illegal for a citizen to own, they're thinking about refusing to sell those weapons to law enforcement agencies in those states. I think that is a brilliant strategy, and I hope they follow through with it.
Joe DiGenova, you went real fast. You went to Georgetown. It was law school, though. It wasn't undergrad. But do you call yourself a Hoya fan? Are you pumped up about March Madness?
I love college basketball, and the Hoyas are great, and I wish them well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. Well, the question is, would you tune into ESPN if Keith Olbermann were the one giving you the Hoya scores this
That
March?
would be the end of my relationship with ESPN.
Well,
there would be no... listen, if they want to hire this clown, I mean, he is a psychotic, first of all. I mean, the guy is just a bundle of mental problems.
Don't hold back.
If they want to hire this clown... They're going to ruin themselves by having this moron on. But you know what? ESPN is a guy channel, although I don't think Olbermann is a guy. I mean, I think he's a nutbag.
Well, we're going to talk about it right after the traffic and weather. Thanks, Joe DiGenova, for